All right, join us now on Inside TBT. I mean, really, the two biggest names you get when it comes to TBT. We got Coach Seth Greenberg, Coach Fran.
Joey and Andrew?
Exactly. I guess we got the top four all here. We're going to talk a little bit about TBT, which is, less than a week away. Game's kicking off this Friday. Fran, we'll start with you. You're out in Vegas. How we doing?
It looks like I'm at Hinkle Fieldhouse, but I'm tricking you guys. I think you know that. Everything's good. I have eschewed the heat today by staying inside and studying my Wichita Regional, where I will be hanging out next weekend. So I'm looking forward to it.
And Coach Greenberg, I know you've been locked in that room thinking only TBT. How do you feel about the tournament coming up?
I've got two priorities: making sure my golf game stays in shape, and the TBT, and a little bit of the draft. Look, I'm fired up about it. I mean, obviously, Fran got the assist. He's going to deal with the Olympics, and I'm dealing with the TBT for 3 weeks. So, I think it's interesting. I think teams are still emerging. I think that's the interesting thing. Will Claiborne obviously going to Team Hines. They're getting better.
Yeah.
Obviously, Carmen's crew took a little bit of a hit this week. They're not going to be as good. They're going to be a little old in the tooth. I just think that I see a lot of teams taking on the identity of the great overseas elite in terms of veteran experienced players. And speaking of overseas elite, it looks like Boeheim's Army is trying to buy a championship.
Yeah. Which, by the way, some people think they've done that in the past.
They got the dude now, though, Freddie.
It's legal now.
Freddie, hey, they got the one guy to control Big Daddy Kane and the other guy that can make every single play at the end of the game, and that's DJ Kennedy. And you got the two baddest dudes maybe in the history of the TBT.
Yeah, you know what's interesting, guys, is we know most of the players, and yet, because there's going to always be mystery about a guy not showing up at the last minute or somebody gets added. And so what looks like on paper to be strong teams or not so strong teams can be very deceiving when we get to a certain region and all of a sudden you find out that, let's say Team Hines has added Will Clyburn, a really good player in Europe. And so that's the thing that's so unique about this is that what looks like on paper could be a strong team, it can change by the time we get to a region. But we know this also. There are a few teams in this field that are not getting the buzz they deserve and that they're going to pop up out of nowhere and we're going to be surprised.
My guess is that you have a team or two in mind, in your opinion, that's not getting the buzz they deserve. We'll start with the Wichita Regional. You're going to be there, like you said. What are some of your, overall thoughts about that side of the bracket?
Well, we could say this about all four, but I think this could be every bit as tough as the Illinois Regional. When you look at Eberline Drive and the team they've put together, I talked to Matt Mitchell just a few minutes ago, and he's going to – let me go ahead and get my notes here. Like a guy like A.J. Slaughter, who plays for the Polish national team.
He's a bucket.
He played for our good friend Darren Horn at Western Kentucky. You look at Jeremy Evans, who won – you ready for this, guy? He won the NBA slam dunk contest. Or Marcus Teague, a first-round pick. Archie Goodwin, another first-round pick. So I like this region because we know who the teams are. We're excited about Aftershocks, the Wichita team. You ready for this? Tyus McGee is a guy that I watched at Iowa State. Might be one of the best shooters in the world. And he was on Iowa United a couple years ago. This year he's playing for Aftershocks. And so that's another team at the top of the bracket. Challenge ALS, Jerome Randall and Justin Denman, one of the best backcourts in this tournament. LA Cheaters with Casper Ware. Seth knows these guys better than anybody, the Drew League, from his time at Long Beach State. So right off the bat, I like those top four, but here's one for you. Keep your eye on Team Arkansas, the 6th seed. Okay? You got Dusty Hanners, who's a borderline NBA player, and Jalen Barford, who has not only been a star in TBT, but is a terrific player in Europe. So, it's going to be a fun region. By the way, how about a team that we are D3? I've been studying these guys today. And these guys got guys that can play. They're playing around the world that nobody's ever heard of. Much, Seth, like the way we didn't know much about sideline cancer a few years ago.
Yeah, I tell you, that team's going to be good. Just touching on a couple things. I think the Stillwater Stars are going to be interesting. The great Doug Gottlieb going to be coaching them. I mean,
Well, no, that's a negative. That's a negative.
And
Well,
what's that?
even
He's got a
with the injury?
he's got a Maccabi championship underneath his belt. I mean, he went to Israel and beat the Israelis.
Coach,
Yeah.
People go to Israel and beat the Israelis.
Coach, he cut me from that team, Coach. So I don't know how much.
He's a very good evaluator of talent.
Wait, did you see he tore his ACL yesterday?
Who did? Oh, yeah, Doug.
He
Gottlieb.
did.
And by the way, he doesn't have to play. But that's an interesting team because you got Markel Brown, who absolutely can guard and extremely athletic. You got Everett, the kid from BYU, who's a very good player. You know, Marshall Moses is going to rebound the ball. You know, Michael Quails is a freak. I mean, this bracket, I think, quite honestly, I think the Wichita State team is one of the weakest teams in the bracket. Like, they don't excite me. They've got a nice mixture of youth and experience, and they obviously got Connor Frankamp. He's going to make shots. I think the LA Cheaters are the most intriguing to me because you got Caspari and you got Derek Williams, obviously, who's the second pick in the draft. Now, what kind of shape is he going to come in? Is he going to understand what the TBT is all about? The same thing with Terrence Jones. I mean, you're talking about three guys, all right, that legitimately were NBA players. I mean, how will they kind of understand what this thing's all about? So I think that's a team you got to watch. I do agree with Fran on Team Arkansas. I think that John Barfield and Hannah can flat score. Jimmy Witt, obviously young, athletic. Courtney Fortson is going to be able to make plays. I like their team. Challenge ALS's backcourt will be dynamic. I'm not sure about their front court. I have a little bit of concerns of, can they rebound the ball? David Weaver is going to be an interesting player on their team. But I agree with that. I think Eberlin Drive, and I think the darkest of dark horses is Florida T&T. And you're talking about Antonio Blakeney is a big-time scorer. I mean, he can play. Chris Warren, depending on the shape he's in, and Fran, you probably know better from his international experience, is explosive off the bounce. I mean, that guy knocked me out of the NIP, played for
Ole Miss,
and he was absolutely terrific. But Dominique Jones is another guy that can take over a game at any single time, anytime. So I think the depth of this bracket is really, really interesting. But wouldn't you think that, don't you think the LA Cheetahs are the most intriguing team? Because if you look at just sheer potential and talent, and the same thing with Eberlin, because I think the two guys for Eberlin that people don't talk about is Devin Robinson, who I think is perfect, and JP Tokido. I think those guys are perfect TBT players.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, yes. Now, JP is going to be nursing an ankle sprain coming in, according to Matt Mitchell. In case you're betting on these games, I want people to have the full disclosure here, okay? And but see, I'm going to go back and push back a little bit on Seth's evaluation of aftershocks, and here's why. Because last year they were shorthanded in the backcourt. Connor Frankamp was terrific. 2 years ago, when we were out in Wichita, and they got beat fairly early in the tournament by sideline cancer. They've got a kid, David DeLeo, who played, and Tony DeLeo from the Sixers.
Very well.
David DeLeo played in Spain this year as a rookie, kid out of Central Michigan. And I'm just telling you guys, Teray Murray, NBA guy, Tequil Cotton, these guys were not on aftershocks a couple of years ago. And then I think the other thing, Seth, and it wasn't a factor 2 years ago, the way I thought it would be, the home crowd. So if Connor's playing well, who was in the ACB, David DeLeo, Teray Murray, 3 years in the NBA, Tequil Cotton.
Kelly and McDuffie are athletic.
Yeah. So don't sleep on them necessarily, although they were disappointing a couple years ago. I just love those. I love Challenge ALS, and I love Cheaters. There's something about Eberline Drive that I'm feeling. By the way, I'm going to give you another nugget here, and this is all Matt Mitchell. This is not me. They are going to Memphis tomorrow morning to train with Penny Hardaway and Cody Toppert, their coach. Little mini training camp before they head to Wichita. So I don't know how many TBT teams are actually doing that, but that might give them just a little bit of a push as they try to get back and recapture some of that early Eberline Drive magic.
Challenge ALS will probably be working at Sean Marshall's gym in California, in Riverside. I mean, he's opened up a gym and as a player development program, does a great job. And it's hard not to root for those guys because everything they stand for. I just think there's going to be really good competition out. I mean, I'll just give you. I have Everline and ALS coming out of this just because ALS is kind of, in my heart of hearts. I'd like to see them, advance. And I think Everline Drive is too talented.
Yeah. I would take Everline coming out of this region. Seth brought up a great point. Here's one of the things, guys. I just want to get in early in this podcast. The reasons we're playing the TBT. Obviously, one team's going to win $1 million, but think of sideline cancer. Think of Challenge ALS. Think of Team Autism. How about the sickle cell team from DePaul? Billy Garrett was the only NBA player to play with sickle cell, and then mental toughness. My buddy Kevin Driscoll, the assistant coach up at Marist. There are some great stories in this tournament beyond who's going to win it.
And you get immersed in even the Jimmy V team Jimmy V, which is, by the way, they've got, you talk about a makeup of that team, and we'll get to them later. But I mean, they had the makeup of a team very similar to the old overseas elite, that mature, veteran, experienced, tough players. And they got Maz Track, my former assistant at State, graduate assistant to Joe and myself, and they've got an interesting. But we'll get to them later. What do you guys think about?
So we can talk too. Oh, awesome. Andrew, you go first.
Wait. First of all, Joe, here's the deal. People really don't want to hear what you have to say.
No, trust me.
We usually charge an hour for this kind of information. Come on.
We know.
Doing it for free. Come on, man.
I'll give my brief opinion. This is what I think. Coach Greenberg, you mentioned Florida TNT and LA Cheaters. I think those are the classic TBT teams of we'll see who shows up in Wichita. Like, those are the teams that are, if everyone on those rosters show up, those are going to be teams that are tough to beat. And going with that, theme, I think the teams that are going to have the most guys that actually show up, that are scheduled to show up as of right now, are ALS, Everline Drive, Aftershocks, and the Arkansas team. I think those are the teams that are going to have, the most of the top seeds. So we'll see who shows up with LA Cheaters and Florida TNT, because that'll shake things up if they get the full roster to Wichita.
Hey, Seth, we're going to call Andrew Dr. Z. That's his new TV.
I like that.
Dr. Z.
I'm good.
We got to come up with a nickname for Joey by the end of this.
Whoa. Wait a second. Joey, you don't have to come up with a nickname. Do you know he's one of the most influential people in all Columbus, Ohio?
Yeah.
He was the most liked player at Ohio State during his tenure at Ohio State.
Well, that's what we have in common.
Besides Andrew Dawkins, I think.
Joey knows I was one of the most liked assistant coaches ever at Ohio State, so we have something in common.
That's why we get along. That's why we get along well. I'll keep it short and sweet. I think that Everline Drive has the second best roster ever in TBT history, and it's just unfortunate that the best roster ever is also in this year's tournament with Boeheim's Army. So, but I think I gotta have Everline Drive coming out of here. I think Team Challenge ALS is awesome. I think that they have played together. I think that guards win in the TBT, and I think they've got plenty of them. I'll speak for Andrew. We both love Team Arkansas. We think that they're the most underrated, underseeded team in the entire tournament. And then quick shout out to my guy Jack Lieb, who's coaching the expats team. Give them some love. Hopefully they put up a good fight. I think they will, actually. So that's his first head coaching experience at all. It's going to be on the road at Coke Arena against Wichita State, so that'll be pretty interesting. But I think that this is, while it's a very deep regional, I don't think it's the best, but I think it might be the deepest. That's my humble opinion.
I agree.
Randy, you're humble, but I mean, we appreciate your opinion.
It's about the only time Joey's ever been humble. I'm going to see expats against the Aftershocks.
Yeah.
And all I know is this: Lehigh and Bucknell have something in common. They have pulled off major upsets in the NCAA tournament.
As 15 seeds.
Exactly.
And their best players from Colgate.
Exactly. Yeah. They got quite the roster. They really do have an underrated roster.
The deal with the TBT was the only way they wanted to be in this field is if they could be a 15 seed.
Exactly. All right, well, we go West Virginia next.
We'll move over to West Virginia, which is the Ott Elmore region. That's what people are calling it. And by people, I mean Joey and I, and Ott is probably calling it.
Dr. Z.
But Coach Greenberg, we'll start with you. What are your initial thoughts with the West Virginia Regional, where you will be in attendance with us?
Yes. Look, sideline cancer. I think, again, we talked about it a second ago, but their mission, their cause. I mean, they've got third and fourth year players that have played for this team, and you know what? There's a value to that. There really is. Between their understanding of a cause, but when you got Mo Creek and you got obviously Marcus Elam Keen, I mean, like, you can't. I mean, come on now. I mean, like, that guy at the end of the game takes over. I mean, Abel takes over. I mean, I really like just the DNA of this team. And then look, is Eric Thompson, the big kid from UOP, that's had a great year. And my brother said he's really, really been good overseas. I mean, that's a mountain masquerading as a man. So I love the sideline cancer team. There was no doubt about it. Armored athlete, Cody Clark, I think he could be a big time player. And that's a team that always really, really plays well. I think they've gotten a little old. Raton Mays obviously can make plays and scored some, but I just think they might have gotten a little old. I'm not as hard on them. I'm interested to see what War Ready does, Fran.
Yeah.
This is the team that they talk about playing with a chip. They talk about all the things that, like, you could hear Bruce, like, brainwashed in their brains about they're underappreciated, underrated. Like Simeon Bowers obviously got to the finals in 2019. Bryce Brown is an absolute bucket. Now, let me ask you, Fran.
Yeah.
Kareem Canty.
Yeah.
Interesting. Plays for both teams.
New York City kid. Yeah.
New York City kid. Could he be the DeAndre Kane of War Ready?
I wouldn't go that far. We coach guys like him. He keeps both teams in the game. He's very talented. Bruce did a good job with him. He transferred, right, where was he at? Marshall, that's right. The West Virginia Regional. So, hey, he's coming back home, guys. You never know now. Talk about playing with a chip. You know what? Bruce Pearl has the chip meter going 12 months a year.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
It doesn't end in March. It keeps going, and they use it in the summertime, very possibly. I will say this, Seth, about sideline cancer, because you and I both love them. We love Kathy Griffin. We love Billy Clapper. I think the pressure's on them. They're going to have to react to being the number one seed in a region where you got Marshall and West Virginia's alumni teams on. So I'm a little nervous about them. I'm a little nervous about them. Now, did they add Aubrey Dawkins? Is that official?
And Aubrey Dawkins, I think, is a good piece for them because he gives them another athlete, a guy that can get easy buckets, a guy who can get the glass finish. I think he's a good piece for them.
But I'm going to tell you, Seth, I get the idea that armored athlete who's been around since the beginning, they're a little old, but a couple guys that you mentioned, Cody Clark, he had a cup of coffee with the Boston Celtics, former Arkansas guy. And John Roberson is a kid who played at Texas Tech.
He's been in.
He's a high-level European player. You got Malcolm Miller, who's got a ring. Yes, they're older, but there's something about this team that I like. If you're making me choose, I got a feeling about armored athlete. And I hate to say that because we all think it's sideline cancer's time. They've been so great. But I worry about the pressure that's on them. And, let's face it, an Elam ending, anything can happen.
What do you think? Team 23, you got Tim Quarterman, Eric Griffin, who's a very, very good player.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
I mean, really, really a good player. I look at their team. I mean, Quarterman's is legit.
Yeah.
I think they've got a little sleeper in them, which I think they're gonna be interesting. Let's really talk about the two. Herd that. I mean, Herd that. Look, they came back from 18 against the money team last year. Obviously, you got the story of Ott, but obviously John is a high-level player that can distribute the basketball. Obviously, their athleticism at the front court position is really good. But how do you think? You talk about pressure.
Yeah.
I mean, like this team here with the song and the dance, and they added the Kelly kid, who's a 20-9 guy at Marshall. Ja'Cory's obviously been a terrific player for them, and a really tough matchup in the TBT. How do you see them? I don't know, just dealing with. Are they the show, or are they there to win? I mean, they're going to training camp, and they're going to have a full week training camp up at the Greenberg. I mean, where do you see them?
Damn, you got him in Greenbrier? Did you get that done for them?
No, they go above me. They go right to the governor.
They went right. They must have went to Mike D'Antoni and pulled some strings.
Exactly.
That's pretty good. Be the Greenbrier Resort. That's big time. Yeah, listen. Hey, you can't discount the fact that both them and West Virginia are going to they're going to have a home court advantage.
Big time.
Didn't work. It didn't work for Wichita. It's worked in Columbus, guys. Joey, you know that, right? Playing over what is it, Capital U?
Yep.
And I think this could be a huge factor. Now, what I like about Marshall's this Herd team is I like their style of play, Seth, because it's a freewheeling. John Elmore was a great playmaker in college. He could put points on the board. You mentioned the athletes up front, so I like their style in this tournament. I worry about I worry about West Virginia. I think their team. We're talking about West Virginia now. First of all, who's going to show up? Every year we think they're going to put together their bomb squad, and it turns out that somebody gets hurt, somebody's signing a deal overseas, so they can't play. So my question with West Virginia is, who's their backcourt going to be? How good is their backcourt?
It's deep, though. You talk about Phillips, Stanton, and Alex Ruoff. If he shows up,
are they going to play?
Yeah, if you look at how about Konate? You think he shows up?
If he shows up, I don't think big guys are as big a factor in a tournament like this. I'd rather have John Elmore than Sangaba Konate in a tournament like this. So
don't tell Coach Huggins that.
No, listen, I'm going to have to show up in Morgantown in a few months, and I'm going to have to wear a mask over my head. I just think this West Virginia team is going to be overrated going to Charleston.
I'll give you the best player in the region might not make it out of the first round. Trevor Booker, prime time players. Like he can drop 40 by himself.
Hey, he was a monster at Clemson. We're talking about Clemson, Trevor Booker, still playing at a high level.
He just plays pickup with these dudes in the gym, and they said, "You want to play with us?" He said, "Sure." Like a year ago, what did he get? Like 35 in their opening game. Come on, Joey, you should know this.
Yeah, literally exactly 35.
Yeah. Joey,
are you the TBT historian? Are you the TBT historian?
No, I just like basketball.
Is there a better player? You talk about a guy that averaged 10 and 7 in the league.
Yeah, we didn't rank him as number 1, but he was in the top 5, right, Andrew?
Yeah, we had Marcus Keene number 1. We had to give him his flowers.
Yeah,
I got to go with that one because I think Marcus Keene, as good as Trevor Booker is, and Seth's right on the money. I just think guards in this tournament, now maybe DJ was a little different, DJ Kennedy, because he's really a guard in a power forward's body. Right. He's really like the Seth always called him the LeBron of this tournament. But I would rather have quality guards than quality bigs.
I think what's so interesting about the West Virginia Regional is everyone is talking about the potential West Virginia matchup, but they each got to win 2 games to get there. That's not a guarantee, which that's kind of what sucks sometimes about March Madness and tournaments like this, or you see the matchups on there that you really want to happen, and then for whatever reason they don't.
We call that July man. See, John Mugart calls that July man.
Yeah.
So John wants to see that matchup because that thing will pack Coliseum.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I think
want to see that.
TBT would be happiest if the Sweet 16 is sideline cancer, war ready, Auburn alumni, and then heard that in West Virginia, because that's what the fans would be most into. Armored Athletes got a bunch of backers too as well. So I'm personally hoping, because we're going to be in West Virginia, that's the semifinals of West Virginia. But I'm hoping, praying that we get that West Virginia matchup, because people have been talking about that for over a year now. Is what would happen.
Let me ask you guys a question. If we have that matchup, does Bob Huggins show up in Charleston?
Yes.
It's not a rivalry, though.
I'll tell you one thing.
It's not a rivalry.
If you have that matchup, I would predict that the governor shows up for that game.
He's a big basketball fan, guys. Governor Justice. He still might be coaching. He still might be coaching girls' high school basketball.
He's still coaching girls.
He's still coaching.
Yeah. Hey, I'll tell you one thing we did talk about the Wofford alumni team. Fletcher McGee struggled a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah.
Watch out for Keith Braxton. All right, from St. Francis, Loretto. I did one of his games against Harvard on a hack and sack. 6'4", all-purpose player, big, physical, tough, gets in the lane. I was player of the year in the Northeastern Conference. Don't underestimate the Northeastern Conference. You don't just roll into Fairleigh Dickinson and get a win now. You don't roll into Loretto and get a win now.
I'll tell you, I mean, that's a tough place. If you don't have an easy pass and you're trying to get to Northern Jersey and trying to get to Hackensack, you are in trouble, man. It could take you an hour and 45 minutes to go 10 minutes normally.
Team DRC, Glenn Rice. Does he show up? Tyshawn Taylor. They got a good backcourt now. Team DRC is doing about Glenn Rice and Tyshawn Taylor. Those are two high-level players, two guys that played in the league multiple years.
That's crazy because they're a 14 seed. Think about
exactly. That's
Which
what
tells me that
when we had out on the show, he was like, "We're getting hosed every single year because our first round matchup's impossible." And we're like, "Dude, it's the TBT. That's what happens every single matchup."
Yeah, I mean that's.
Well, I think if you're gambling on these games, seriously, you better have a good Google search engine because you really have to kind of like I don't know where Tyshawn played last year. You know what I mean? So I don't know what kind of shape he's in.
He might have played in Japan last year.
Yeah, because we see these guys' names on paper, and then every year I go, well, Mike James. You guys remember when Mike James played in the TBT a couple of years ago, and he was the hottest player in the Euro League, and now he's playing with the Nets. And he went out early with that EuroLeague Team Hines.
Yeah.
So sometimes on paper a team looks pretty good and they're not as good as we think they are.
Watch out for D2 now. I'm just telling you.
That one thing that I was going to add was it seems like this is the region of like a lot of veteran teams, right? Teams that have been in it a number of years, and that matters, especially in the TBT, whether it's sideline cancer or D2 or armored athlete. Like it gives them
Davis
a leg up. Absolutely. So, and the only thing that I will add to what you guys said is kind of diving deeper into something that was already mentioned. It sure seems like Heard That and Sideline Cancer are the two teams that have the biggest target on their back. Heard That puts on a show and is America's team, and they're always talking, and they had a great tournament last year, but they ended up not doing anything, right? And then Sideline Cancer is the number one seed and in theory has a fairly easier path to winning, and they both went from underdogs to now they have the target on their back.
They're a complete team. Now, Fran, you can help me though. I want to ask you before we jump off this. Mike Davis, he was MVP of the Georgia Super League. Now, you would only know, and it's not the state of Georgia, Joey.
No, we're not talking about it. Peach Jam Classic. We're talking about the Zaza Pachulia's home country.
Yeah, I talked to Grant yesterday. He said the kid is ridiculous.
Yeah. Georgia said, listen, there's so many kids playing over there, Seth. The Georgia League is not a great league, but when you're the MVP of the league, hey, I did a game last night, a kid from Nigeria no one ever heard of, Caleb Agata. He was a 22-point scorer in Israel, and all of a sudden he's going to maybe be in the NBA next year. These kids I don't care if you're the MVP in Georgia, you play well in Bulgaria. Our guys in TBT are playing every corner of the world. Yeah. If you're a high-level scorer and you're going up against other Americans, and you're Mike Davis and you're doing what he's doing in Georgia, you are a good basketball player.
Absolutely.
They've been practicing. They've been in training camp at Queens. I mean, they run as good offense as anyone in TBT. I mean, like they're like the Princeton of TBT. I mean, they're going to play right to the last possession. I mean, there's no doubt about it. They're a sneaky good team.
Absolutely.
Oh, do you have anything else to add to that?
I've got armored athlete coming out of this region. Assuming that everybody on paper is there, Malcolm Miller and Robertson shows up for the first time, and the guys that have been there and have continued to compete. Dave Dudzinski, who played at Holy Cross with Malcolm Miller, who's a good player in Europe. He's a tough, rugged guy, another armored athlete guy. If all these guys show up, I think they're going to be. I think they're going to be the team that, as a 4 seed, I like their chances of coming out. Obviously, the pressure's on Sideline Cancer. They have loads of talent.
Yeah.
But if you made me pick somebody other than them as the number 1 seed, watch out for those guys.
I'm interested in Malcolm Miller. A couple years in the NBA, very successful overseas, has a championship ring. How will his approach be compared to when he used the TBT to build his brand?
Well, here's what I would answer that with. That kid is a self-made player every step of the way. Holy Cross, G League, finally got a ring, making money now. And so I don't think you're going to have an issue with Malcolm Miller coming into TBT. Hungry, he's playing with guys he likes. He knows these guys. I'd have no issue with that.
I still think sideline cancer. I think that they have enough character, enough athleticism, enough experience, and a guy that can take over the game in the Elam ending. And a guy who may, not only him, he can take it over, but Mo Creek's going to make a big shot in the Elam ending also.
Well, Remy Abel's been there too, Seth. Time and time again.
Yeah, those guys.
What's Mo Creek's nickname?
What?
You know it. Mo Creek, Mo Money.
You know what? It's time for Mo Creek to make Mo money. The only way he's going to do that is win the TBT.
That kid's been through it all. You talk about reconstructive surgery in that knee. I mean, it's easy to root for. Like, that's another one of those teams. Easy to root for.
Very easy.
So, Fran, if we're going to go to Columbus next, I think we should just acquiesce and let
Go ahead, Joey. I want to hear the Carmen's Crew official scouting report.
Here we go.
Okay.
Here's what I'll say. I felt really, really, really good about this team a week ago when we had Caleb Wesson, because he brings a dynamic to the TBT that not many teams have, right? I mean, great shooter, can get you a bucket on the block. There's not that many teams that have an NBA caliber young big man on their team. He's in the best shape of his life. And unfortunately, he's gonna be in summer league like we already talked about, and he's not gonna be in the TBT, which is especially with the TBT being in Columbus at Ohio State this year, that's a big, big bummer. But what I will say is his replacement, Kufos, is no scrub, right? I mean, yeah, he's older. He's no scrub. NBA guy, one and done. John Diebler's roommate, which I found out the other day back in school. But here's the deal. It all revolves around the oldest of the old guys, Kraft and Diebler. What do they got?
Jeff Gibbs. I thought you were going to say Jeff Gibbs.
Yeah, well, he's bringing it. He's bringing it.
Yeah.
But Kraft and Diebler, they play in my men's league. That's the only basketball they've been doing. So, I mean, it'll be interesting. Kraft takes a year off of basketball. If anybody could just hop right in and be the dominant defensive guy, it could be him, right? But can Diebler give you a couple buckets off the bench? Can Kraft still guard the best player? I mean, David Lighty just keeps winning overseas, and he's incredible. And Buford was the MVP a couple years ago, and you know what they're getting. It'll just be interesting to see what the other guys bring to the table. And
Mavunga?
I will say this: Mavunga's played pickup with us in the summers. He was incredible on the Fort Wayne team a couple years ago. He averaged 27 and 7 in Japan. He's one of the best players in Japan. And they're so unbelievably excited about him, and I love that addition. I mean, I think that he takes a lot off the plate of a guy like David Lighty and Buford, who because if Kraft doesn't pan out the way everyone wants it to, Mavunga can have the ball in his hand.
Can I burst your bubble now?
Sure.
Matamaki, how are you going to deal with 21 feet of post guy? How are you going to deal with Robbie Hummel? And his, he's got something to prove now. He's got a little something. He's back with his guys, Lewis Jackson. I mean, how are you going to deal? I mean, Kelsey Barlow. I mean, those guys, I actually like their team. And I thought they played really good basketball last year.
Imagine they had
Robbie's in shape coming off the 3-on-3.
Robbie's coming back today from Europe. They just won a 3-on-3 tournament. So he's in good shape coming into this tournament. Keep that in mind. Hey, one thing about Mavunga, he almost made the Japanese Olympic team.
Really?
They almost naturalized him. Yeah, he was. And by the way, as Seth knows, that might be today the most underrated league in the world.
Mm-hmm.
They pay on time. The players are good. And for Julian to do what he's been doing over there. By the way, I don't like him because I'm an Ohio U Bobcat there, Joey. We hate anybody from Miami of Ohio. Okay.
His sister played at Ohio State, so he's an honorary Buckeye.
Yeah. Yeah, but to Seth's point, man, I don't know how you can guard if Haas and Hammond into the mix, Jackson and Barlow and those guys. How are they an 8 seed? Tell me that.
I don't know how they're an 8 seed. It's not fair to Ohio State. They have the toughest road of any 1 seed. The only thing that I will say,
stop.
I said this last week when when I was, and I don't even want to say this because, and I won't say where I said this, but they were asking about that potential matchup, and how are you going to stop Haas and Hammonds? And I was like, well, Caleb Wesson presents quite the mismatch as well, but he's not playing anymore. And that makes me a little bit nervous. But, if they can stop him, then Ohio State's got guys on the other end that present interesting matchups as well. And I mean, like, for example, when we played Haas in college, we started out guarding him with Caleb, and he had 19 points in the first half. Second half, we went small. Not only did he not score, but we came back and won the game. We were down 15. So, I mean, it just – as much as, and you guys know as well as everybody else, as much as you talk about, there being a matchup on the offensive end for Haas, on defense, he's got to guard the guys as well. So it should be interesting. I really hope that that's the second round game, as much as I think the Volunteers have a great roster.
Joey, you know what? I think when in doubt, just put Aaron Kraft on him.
Yeah, right. Might as well.
What do you guys think? What do you guys think of the money team? Because these guys have been there before.
I think that they, last year they were prima donnas.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't take it seriously when they got up. They let, obviously, and you got to give her that credit. But, I like their makeup. Jenkins is a good player. Ledbetter's been in every summer league that I've ever been to at the NBA.
Yep.
I'm surprised he's passing up the NBA summer league to beat it. He always plays with the Spurs in the summer league, right?
Right.
Yeah, but he can still do it because the summer league's backed up now.
Matt Costello.
Yep.
If he's in shape. Jordan Crawford obviously is got a good floor game. I'm interested to see if they're going to just have a little different dynamic this year. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think if they're hungry, because Ledbetter is a competitor, Matt Costello, this Xavier Munford was a terrific G League player, borderline NBA player. To Seth's point, and Peyton Aldridge plays, he gives them a guy that can make shots. Simmons. If these guys are locked in, Jonathan Simmons. He was the guy in the Markelle Fultz trade when the Sixers traded Markelle to the Magic for Jonathan Simmons. This guy's been an NBA starter. Hunger is the big thing. But Dr. Z is saying, no way. I can see his body language.
I'm probably going to regret this eventually, but I'm on record, which is just on our show, saying that Jonathan Simmons was in TBT 2 years ago. I think he was on the overseas elite team that Carmen's crew beat, and he stunk it up. So
he did. He was an NBA starter.
I think there's a weird dynamic of the NBA guys who got in there, proved they were good in the NBA, and now are just kind of still playing. I think those guys don't really have the –
except for ISO Joe.
What'd you say?
Except for ISO Joe.
Yeah, but hey, listen, Odd Elmore, he neutralized ISO Joe. Come on now.
No, except ISO Joe. Yeah, that's the perfect example. He just is a guy that – like, I think DeMar DeRozan is the kind of guy that's going to play in leagues like TBT for years after he's done playing in the NBA.
Yeah, hey, Z, Dr. Z, I was talking to some NBA scouts, and they were really high on ISO Joe until Odd Elmore got a hold of him, and that was it. Seth, that was it. It was over.
Let's get to some teams I think are interesting. I'm going to call some upsets. Team Hines is developing a little bit of an interesting roster.
Who's that?
Team Hines.
Oh, yes.
I mean, Fran, you know Will Clyburn better than I do, obviously. But I mean, first of all, I actually think Kyle Hines is playing.
Yeah.
Like if that dude's playing, he's playing to win. Like he's not playing. Justin Burrell as an addition is another really good piece.
Yeah.
Nick Lathis is a really, really good piece. When I look at this team.
Hey, you know what John Jenkins is doing right now, Seth?
Making jump shots, probably.
Team USA, Brett.
He's making jump shots, and he's in training camp with the USA Olympic team. Yeah. So he's going to come off of that to this tournament, to your point. But you know what they call Justin Burrell, guys? More Justin, more money.
He does all the dirty work. He does.
So forget Mo Creek. Forget Mo Creek. It's Mo Justin, more money.
I just look at that team.
Yeah.
And I think they've got a toughness about them. I mean, like Burrell and Hines are going to be as physical as front court. Jenkins going to make shots. If they get Calathis, if he plays and he's ready to play minutes, they got an elite play starter.
I like their team, man. John Jenkins played well in Spain this year. I told you he's with the Olympic team. Absolutely no doubt that last time we saw Nick Calathis, He was one game away from the Olympics last week.
Yeah.
So he's in shape.
How happy is Team Hines that Greece didn't qualify for the Olympics?
There's no question about it. As unhappy as Rick Pitino is.
Yeah.
How about this to show how much TBT is growing? 10 alumni teams in the Columbus Regional. 2 of them we haven't even talked about yet. Red Scare, Dayton alumni, and Zip 'em Up, Xavier, who signed anyone who's ever even mentioned Xavier is on that team.
Are they on NCAA? Did they go on NCAA did they go on NCAA probation yet? The team Xavier? I just never mind.
Not yet. Not yet.
TBT probation is what I mean.
Like I look at that, I like Zip 'em Up's roster, and because I think that JP McCure could turn into the Eric Diemendorf of Zip 'em Up.
100%.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, if they're in shape, when you look at JP, you look at Trayvon Blewett, you look at Samaj Christian, a former NBA player.
And Lyons, that's an interesting backcourt.
Mark Lyons has been kicking ass forever. You know, he's tough as they get. Very interesting team. Very interesting team.
Like, I think they're more talented than Red Scare.
I agree.
I do too.
And I like Mike Sell, and I love Landers. But I look at that team, and Siebert's good. I think Zip 'em Up has got dynamic backcourt, a big-time shot maker, an irritant in McCura, and enough big guys that can be a problem.
They got a good coach.
Let me ask our 2 hosts this. Do you think Red Scare's great performance last year was a flash in the pan?
Benefit of the bubble.
I think Red Scare doesn't – I mean, we had one guy in the top 10 for Red Scare. I don't think they have that guy that's like, all right, we got to win all these games. You're going to be our 25, 30-point-per-game scorer. I think they're a great, team, and they'd be good in like a regular season. Like they remind me of a Dayton team that would win, the regular season championship. But I don't think they have a guy that, they're jumping on the back and they're leading them to the promised land. I think Zip 'em Up's got like 3 of those guys. Carmen's crew has Lighty and Buford who can do that.
Yep.
And Team Hines has Hines. And so yes, if I'm understanding your analogy correctly, yes, it was a flash in the pan.
Zip 'em up.
I would say this: the one guy that could be that guy for Red Scare, and he wasn't great last year, the way he was the year before, is Devin Oliver.
Right.
If Devin has that kind of tournament, Dr. Z, you like that, Joey, right? That nickname.
I love that. So good.
If Devin Oliver plays to his potential, then I think Red Scare can be that team.
I agree with Coach Greenberg. If it's not Carmen's crew, it's Team Hines and Zip 'em Up.
You agree with me?
I agree.
Finally paying attention. We've spent years and years trying to get people to pay attention to us.
I know. And somehow we trick them on occasion.
On occasion, once in a while. All right. Let's go to Illinois, because I think this is the most dynamic bracket there is.
I think the champion's coming out of Illinois.
Ooh, well, I mean, so you're pulling. I'll tell you, don't sleep on Team Heartfire, coached by my guy LaFonso Ellis.
I like it.
And LaFonso's making calls for me, checking on players that potential. By the way, is Rolly Alkins playing some? Because right now
I cannot divulge what I know. I think it's there is an issue, and it's not off the court at all. It's not a character or anything. But Raleigh right now is touch and go for at least the first weekend. So I can, if there are gamblers listening, so be it. But that's what I'm hearing.
Well, I'm talking with Fonz, and Fonz very meticulous about the selection of their team. But their team, they've got some interesting play. A little long in the tooth, but they've got an interesting makeup. But let's start at the top. Golden Eagles. Can they do it again? Can the TBT's favorite beer guzzling, shot making, trash talking guard, carry. I mean, like, we got to root for them just because the dude is like the best. He's the best story in Travis Diener in the TBT.
Absolutely.
But I look at Golden Eagles, Boeheim's Army, House of Pain, and Heartfire as the 4 best teams in this region.
I hate to say this because I'm never going to hear the end of it in Milwaukee. I think Golden Eagles are going to come in a little fat and happy.
Ooh.
You know what? Now they've added Matt Lejeski, who has had a great career in Europe. Really good player. He gives them another weapon. I love, listen, I love Travis Diener. Been watching him since working in Tom Crean's summer camp this freshman year. But I think Travis, that was his pinnacle last year. Dwight Bikes, DJO. I'm going to be interested to see what they've got left in the tank.
No DJO, coach.
No DJO. Okay.
Andrew Blue instead. Now I think that's a huge loss.
I think we could probably say it might be a trade-off, maybe, but I just think this team has. I just don't think they're going to play to the level of what we saw the last couple of years. And
Wilson didn't have a great year in Israel, my brother said.
Who's that?
Wilson.
Yeah.
He didn't have it.
Well, it's interesting about Wilson because he played himself to a level of Israel in part through the TBT, so good for him.
Yeah, he did, and then he didn't start for them. He was kind of a second unit guy. Wasn't as productive this year.
Yeah.
I got all these Israeli scouting reports.
I love it.
You get me a job out there?
You doing what?
Playing.
Joey, you don't level of basketball. Let's put it this way: if you're playing, it won't be for my brother's team because he's had enough projects.
That's not what I'm asking. First of all, I'm the opposite of a project. I'm a great team guy. I'm not a project. I don't count as an international player in Israel. So some people might see that as, a better
player coach.
If Michael Jordan's guy, he'd hear that and he'd go like this.
I think Joey Lane could be the Udonis Haslam of the Israeli league. Just sign him.
Hey,
he's got the passport. You don't have to play him. He's just a team leader. He's the sage.
You absolutely do not have to play me. That's not what I'm asking.
Joey, he just wants the free Nikes.
Yeah. Just give me the gear. That's all I need.
Now listen, is everybody showing up for House of Pain? Because this is a bomb squad.
It is.
I'm a little worried about House of Pain. We're in a trust circle right now. This isn't going anywhere. But no, I mean, like, LaTulip is my guy, right? I mean, he's my guy, and I'm worried that they don't have the same juice that they had last year. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Who's going to be there?
Who?
Andres Flees.
That's TBD.
Like, he's the king,
right? 100%.
But Brandon, Paul, and Dom, and McCamey shows up.
We almost got Felice. We almost got him a G League contract last year. The way he played in TBT, man,
he was incredible. And I think that Brandon Paul is an unbelievable addition. But they were so good last year because all the guys knew their role. They knew Dom was the guy. LaTulip ran great stuff. Now it's is there too many cooks in the kitchen? I don't know. I'm just being devil's advocate here. That's all.
How about this?
I love LaTulip. That's my guy. I'm just saying.
They got they do have a lot of guys that need the ball. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Your House of Pain. You're Mike LaTulip. You're fired up. Dom's back. Brandon Paul's back. You're hosting the regional. But then, hey, surprise, Sweet 16, Boeheim's Army's adding DJ Kennedy and DeAndre Kane. I mean, you went from – so that's probably part of the, mojo not being as great as it is because –
And Kiefer Sykes.
Kiefer Sykes.
Chicago basketball, baby. That's what it's all about. Kiefer Sykes. He's incredible.
They've added 4 good players, man. Kiefer Sykes is right there with them, I think what they've done is really impressive.
It's safe to say that it's their regional to lose, right?
Well, here's the thing. Are they going to play man-to-man or going to play zone? Made a coaching change?
Yep.
It sure seems like we talked to Dievendorf last week. It sure seems like they're going to play man-to-man, right, Zolden?
Coach,
I don't know. Did we reveal that?
Think about this lineup. You back up Tyrese Rice with Kiefer Sykes. You got Big Daddy DeAndre King. You got DJ. You got Dievendorf to make sure everything kind of stays together. You got Andrew White coming off the bench knocking down jumpers. And then you've got 3 first-round draft choices.
Yeah. It's a lot of first-round draft choices.
I think they're gonna. They can't. The reason we've said this many times in TBT, they can't play zone because when you play zone in TBT against professional players, these guys all move the ball and they all make shots because that's how they play overseas. So if they're going to be the favorite, and I know they're not the number 1 seed, but if they're a team that somebody's picking them to win, you got to convince me they're not going to play that BS summer league 2-3 zone. Okay.
Yeah.
In the Chicago suburban summer league where Joey played.
Oh, we were pressing the whole. Ask Andrew what we did to his team.
Well, I mean, think about this. Think about this lineup. I mean, on a serious note, you've got 3 first-rounders. Lions, who knows, But I mean, like, you've got 3 first-rounders. You've got a dynamic point guard. You've got a physical scorer in Kane that gets to the rim and picks it. And the biggest thing is they went from a team that couldn't get a 50-50 ball. They added 3 guys that get every 50-50 ball.
Yeah.
Well, I would say about the 3 first-rounders, there's a reason why they're in TBT and not in the NBA. So, no offense, guys. If they hear this, they're going to be motivated. Hey, guess what? They won't see me this year. It doesn't matter. They'll forget by next year. They'll be all over Seth. They'll think Seth said that. But no, I think listen. This is Boeheim's Army, but those 4 new additions change the incredible dynamic. But they can't play zone. Devo, if you're listening, it's got to be man-to-man.
They won't. Now, I'll tell you, sleeper team is going to be Team Jimmy V. Josh Parker.
Brotherly Love's not going to like that. They get salty.
And I love Franz Mazanet is as good a player as yours in the TBT. And I love the Giddens, and I love their team. But Josh Perkins, good size, very successful, obviously. Played cup games overseas. Corey Sanders is a bucket, young enough, size, athleticism. Casey Shepard, everyone tells me he played in Champions League. That obviously, Fran, you can address that a little bit better.
Yep, that's high level. He's good.
High level.
Yeah.
Alpha Kappa was a second-round selection of the Hawks, if I'm not mistaken. Very, very good player. I just look at their team. Miles Carter understands how to defend. I mean, playing in Turkey, he had a really good year in Turkey. I mean, you look at their team, I think that they've got experienced, mature, tough, winning players. And I just think that they're a team that could really, really surprise people.
I like SCD hoops to make a little Cinderella run.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you.
Because,
yeah.
And Coach Greenberg, this is me saying the team specifically, not like last year where I said one of these few teams could make a run. So this is me specifically saying that I think SCD hoops, they got Billy Garrett and Quentin Ross, who I guess got booted from Carmen's crew. They said, we don't want you back. I think
how did that happen?
Joey and I saw him at a party during All-Star weekend, and that might be the end of that story because he was at a party not the party with Evan Turner.
Was he breaking curfew? I mean, does he not know TBT and how important it is?
He was in contact with me, and they obviously were like, all right, we'll see you later. That's clearly what happened.
I don't know what I think of the Oregon team. Always us.
I wish Elgin Cook was playing with them.
Yeah, right?
Unfortunately.
I think it's too early. I go to this thing here. And Jonathan Lloyd could score, and Elijah Brown is a nice player. Paul White, I think, is going to be a tough matchup in TBT. I like his game. Mike Moser, I'm not totally sure on. But here's my thing on this. First-year teams in the TBT, I don't care if it's sometimes you and it's sometimes me, but it's always us. That sounds great. They don't understand the deal in this thing. I really believe that. Like if you don't have guys that have played in it, I'm not sure they understand just the intensity of what this thing is all about. Am I way off on it, Fran? You've been around it.
No, but that's exactly why I totally agree. And there's some teams coming into this field that I looked at them on paper and I go, yeah, they're good, but they don't know what TBT is about. But that's why I'm going to push back a little bit. Like, there's just what credit do you give a team like Brotherly Love, who has been here and done that, and 2 years ago came close to, getting all the way to the final game.
Valid point.
What they have everybody back. France is at a high level. Steve Zach, a big white kid from Jersey, is a good player in Europe now. Plus all those other guys. That's one of those teams that, because of their chemistry and togetherness, if everybody's back, sneaky.
No, I agree with you. I mean, I love the way I fell in love with their team 2 years ago in Syracuse. Fell in love with their team. I mean, they have floor gamers.
Right.
They got a bunch of dudes that are that play positionless. They share it. They carve out space. They move the ball. They play hard as hell. I mean, the kid Moore played at Temple. I mean, they got tough Philly guys. That they don't give a crap who they're playing against, quite honestly.
Quick shout out, always a Brave. Obviously, they're hosting the regional, and no one ever talks about them. Jimmy Gavin has 100,000.
Gavin Winthrop.
And much more than Winthrop. He's the best player that I've ever. I will stand by this. He's one of the best players I've ever seen. He dominates pro pickup in Chicago, and he will end up being, if they win a game, if they win 2 games, like, he could end up being the best story to come out of TBT this year based on what he's gone through on a personal level and stuff. And it's just, quick shout out to him. That's one of our guys. So we're rooting. I mean, like, you got to be unbiased, but we don't have to be unbiased. You guys have to be unbiased.
Joey, what's the home court advantage for that team in Peoria? Is it a factor like it is in Wichita?
I would imagine that the Illinois fans will show out, and the Bradley fans will have a good backing for their guys. I just think it's just a different dynamic. The court also itself doesn't lend itself to being really loud like Wichita. Like, the court is way more spread out. That's where they use.
It's where Bradley plays their games. That thing is like more of a.
It's like a convention center. It's
like Long Beach Arena, not a great home court.
Exactly. It's really like the Schottenstein Center, just like a mini version of it. It's just not set up for fans to be on top of you. It's not a great home atmosphere. Like, they have the high school state championships there for basketball, and it's just like a really weird environment. The students are all the way at the top of the stadium. Like, it just makes no sense. And so it'll be interesting to see how it's set up. I would imagine that Bradley will have their fair share of fans obviously come, but Illinois, like we all know, they travel like no other, and they'll be packing it. I wouldn't be surprised if they were rooting for Bradley as well.
Do you think Illinois fans will make their way to Peoria?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, talking to Mike, talking to the TBT guys in general. I mean, is it going to be Wichita State in there? No.
5,000?
But I would imagine, I really do think Illinois basketball is as hot as it's ever been. It's just, people are obsessed with it. Imagine if Kofi comes to Bradley and announces he's coming back to Illinois.
You're working on that one now. Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I think there's a 0% chance he goes back to Illinois, right? If we're just going, why would you enter the portal if you're going to go back to your school? It makes no sense. I would hate that if I was his teammate, but that's another story.
Funny.
He might be trying to just up his NIL, cachet by going back, being the guy that saves the program, and then
that's
all of a sudden,
bad point.
Yeah. Then he gets a car dealership deal. He gets a Raising Cane's deal. Think of all the possibilities. Jerk chicken. He's from Jamaica. I mean, you ever eaten jerk chicken in Champaign? I mean, it's pretty good. There's a lot of possibilities for Kofi if he goes back to Illinois, and he's like the conquering hero.
Coach Greenberg, you know how much money I would have made if my senior year with NIL, man? Oh, my God.
Well, you know what you would have made? Whatever they did when they did the autograph signing days. And you'd make your $10 off of the team picture just like everyone else that they were or whatever. I hate to tell you. First of all, and again, we don't need to get into this, but the NIL is just going to create – there'll be influencers. There'll be people that that can use social media to enhance themselves. There'll be 1 or 2 great players, and then we have created legalized cheating. Let's be honest.
And Joey, listen, the fact that your cameo is selling for $5.99, man, tells you all you.
$10.
Oh, I thought you cut it.
You're right. All day, all night, Joey's doing videos.
I thought it was a summer discount, $5.99. Okay, all right, my bad.
Coach, for you it's free. Free.
I'm going to need something. I'll let my daughters know that. For my next birthday present.
I think we ought to have a TBT cameo, the four of us, and we just split the proceeds.
Hey, I mean, we could charge $100 easy for that.
You know, like we could kind of like shout out the teams and the fans of the teams.
Get Dr. Z on there. It's game over.
Dr. Z, yeah. Dr. Z.
If we're talking money-making ideas, Coach Fraschilla, you got to go on starting lineup with Frank and Brian and talk about TBT.
All right. I'm in. You set that up for me?
Well, you got the connect there. I hear you on there all the time.
Oh, who's that? Who's Frank and Brian?
Scalabrini and
Oh, those guys. Oh,
Yeah.
Frank Isola and those guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just call Scalabrini Brian?
that's
you
what the
just-
show is. That's what they say. There's the starting lineup with Frank and Brian.
Sorry.
I didn't know. We call him Scal. You know,
That's
he's
Chicago
Scal to his,
legend, Golden.
he's Scal set to his.
I know who he is. I'm just a frequent listener to NBA radio
Red
on
Mamba.
Sirius XM, and that's what they do it.
I was banned from NBA radio when I didn't say great things about the G League Ignite. They were not very happy with what I had.
Oh, you
Really?
gotta learn to kiss a little butt, Seth.
I've been put in NBA radio purgatory.
Hey, the key to TV success is kiss a little butt, man.
I couldn't do it.
So you love the overtime league then, Coach?
Oh, well, I said overtime elite is going to ruin more lives 10 years from now when that thing's not standing. Where are these kids are going to go back to?
Hey, by the way, can I shout out Kyle Fogg, one of the all-time greats?
Oh, the best. Love Kai Fogg.
Just got married yesterday. Just
You know
got
who
married.
else got married yesterday?
Who?
Big guy from Notre Dame. Little cup of coffee on the Kings.
Jack Cooley?
Jack Cooley.
Wow. Playing in – was he in Japan? I think he was in
I
Japan.
think he's in Japan, yeah.
Yeah.
Jack Cooley playing the first TBT championship?
He did, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Against Barstool?
Against Barstool.
Hey, if DJ Kenny is the all-time greatest TBT player, who's two?
Ooh.
Oh, man.
Might be Kyle Fogg.
It's got to be – I mean, the five best TBT players ever have got to be overseas elite players, right?
Well, you got the Hineses, Mike James, Kyle Hines,
Yeah,
consistent.
but they didn't. I love those guys. They went out early. They don't count.
I mean, like Jameel Wilson's probably in the top five.
I was going to say Jameel Wilson because they've
Yeah.
won it, and he's been in it a long time.
He's like
Yeah.
the leading Elam Ender.
Jameel Wilson was like CP3. He wasn't thought of the way he is now without the championship.
You're saying lock it up, CP3's a champion?
Well, I think they're going to win it. But my point is, like, there are some people that think Jameel Wilson was right there with DJ, and Seth and I disagree because you have to win a championship in TBT to be great, to be considered greatness.
I mean,
If you're going to be a TBT Hall of Famer, that's just me.
I can't wait for the TBT Hall of Fame.
Seth, will we get into that?
Who would you put from Ohio State in the Hall of Fame?
Oh, it's Aaron Kraft.
Yeah,
I think it's Buford.
I think it's Buford too.
I
thought
it was Buford.
Yeah, maybe
Buford and
Buford.
Whitey.
Aaron Kraft would get in.
Yes.
Hey,
Put
Steve,
Gibbs in there.
the way Steve Nash got in, Aaron Kraft would get in.
Exactly.
All I know is Aaron Kraft gets hurt. Does he treat himself?
Have you ever heard him? You know how he's got the really red, rosy cheeks all the time? He like knows all like the medical stuff about why he has it. It's pretty wild. He went through it when we first interviewed him, like literally 2 years ago on our other show. He was like, "Yeah, I can tell you guys all about it." We're like, "Let's stick to hoops." Thank you.
Hey, do you think Seth and I can get into the TBT Hall of Fame as contributors?
Fran, you're the mayor. I'm just, you know what I am? What do they call? I'm the first. The first lieutenant. What do they call that? The person right behind behind the governor. What's the governor's second in command?
The lieutenant governor.
Well, I'm the lieutenant governor.
No.
That's our first ballot Hall of Fame.
That's how.
I think.
Championship weekend. That's how I'm introducing myself. The governor can't.
No, Seth. No, it is your baby this year. You know what's funny? I think Seth and I will get into the media wing of the TBT Hall of Fame, but
right. But the big question is: do we go before Joey because we know Joey's a legend?
Okay, all right.
I'm already in, right?
Oh, Z, come on now.
Dr. Z, he's got his own flag.
I don't know if Joey's first ballot. I think it's going to take a couple of years. Joey, in the first ballot, Joey will get to like 47% of the vote, and
Everyone on Twitter will be going, "Joey got snubbed. I can't believe it. I'm gonna have to make a press release that says, guys, it's okay. When it happens, it happens."
Yeah.
Brotherly love will be
Are you going overseas, or you're coming to Sanford.
What's that? Oh, I'm going to Stanford. Going to Stanford. No, I'll be in Stanford.
That's a lot of Marion points, boy. You're gonna be on a good vacation.
No, I'm in Greenwich at the Hyatt Regency. Unfortunate, man. But 24-hour free commissary at NBC Sports, just so you guys, make you jealous. 24 hours.
We're gonna get a wrapped sandwich, either ham and cheese or roast beef and cheese.
Little Cobb salad. I'm good.
As long as they have Diet Coke there, right? Isn't that the thing that
I need a place to work out, and I'm good. Besides that, I've worked too hard to lose all this weight to put it back on.
Hey, now how much have you lost?
30.
I've lost 17, man.
I mean, not that it's like a big competition or anything, but I'm hitting that 40 mark right now. So
I like it.
I don't want to lose anymore.
I did it with Lean Cuisines. For a month. Yeah.
I did it from the day the pandemic started.
Yeah.
Just started walking just to waste time, to be honest with you.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And,
yeah. Hey, is this good? Is this good radio right now?
This is perfect. This is what we want to hear.
I stopped recording like 30 minutes ago.
181 pounds.
Coach, last question before we go. You and Zolden are playing golf together in West Virginia. Early predictions, score lines. Is there? Can we gamble on this?
I can't make a prediction. I don't know his game, although I just want to let you know that I'm not giving him anything. The ball's got to go in the hole. It's not like that's good. I mean, golf's played. You got ball's got to go in the hole. I mean,
we're playing ball and cup, is what you're saying.
Ball and cup, no preferred lies. Play it where it lies.
You know what Yubi would say? You must score at a high rate. You must putt at a high rate into painted area. Okay, come on. We all know.
Oh, we'll have a good time. It'll be way to, kind of break it up. That off day is a long day.
Yeah.
And we're actually going to sneak out before the day we're not off. When I have the 7 and 9, we're going to sneak out early in the morning so we can get to the 12 and the 2 o'clock games.
What day is that? I'm not going to be there.
19th.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for you guys, even though I'm on this diet, you're going to miss Doodah Diner.
I know. You're right about that now.
Yeah.
That place is no joke.
That's an all-timer. So,
yeah.
All right, Dr. Z,
right,
Joey,
Randy, have a great Wichita and a great Olympics, man.
You too, Seth, all the best. Have fun. We'll catch up soon. You guys, we'll catch up soon.
Absolutely. You guys are the best. Thank you.
Thanks for coming on.
Okay.